Well, guys, it's that season again when we all need to remind ourselves to beware the Fibonaccios. If you're a veteran of the space and you would never let yourself get Fibonacci blasted, or if you're running value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Well, guys, I hate to admit we are back in that part of the cycle where a lot of people in crypto just start letting other dudes, ostensibly in crypto, just sort of blast them in the face with their Fibonaccios. See this guy right here? He is your favorite YouTuber trying to blast you in the face with Fibonaccios. So if you're new to this channel, you're probably wondering, what am I even talking about? What is this all about? If you're around last cycle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what happens is this. A long time ago in crypto, really it's even before crypto. This is a thing that people have known about markets, all types of asset markets for a long, long time. And that's that if you put a chart that shows price along one axis and time along the other axis, you can start drawing triangles on the chart, and it is a very potent dopamine button in the viewer's mind. Whoever your audience is, drawing those triangles pushes a very powerful dopamine button because they start imagining things like moon Lambos. You start drawing those triangles, you start talking about Ichimoku clouds, Fibonacci sequences, all of these, all of these Elliott waves, all of these, all of these buzz terms that are involved with technical analysis and charting. You start throwing down those buzzwords, and somebody who's never been exposed to this anymore or before is going to think to themselves, oh my goodness, this person is obviously an expert worthy of my attention. And I just feel so good watching this person draw triangles, talking about Fibonacci sequences. And they're like, give me those Fibonaccios, shove those Fibonaccios shove your Fibonaccios right in my face. People love it. It is a very potent tool for pushing the dopamine buttons in people's brains, which is all fine and dandy. It's always been a part of crypto. It's been a part of all kinds of markets for a really long time. You will find a substantial portion of crypto YouTube devoted to Fibonaccios because the YouTubers know there's like especially when there's price action going on, and we're kind of in that season. Whatever you think is going to happen in the markets, that's fine, but we're definitely in the season where things are happening with crypto prices. And these YouTubers, they figured out a long time ago that as soon as they start drawing those triangles, those Fibonaccios on the charts, you're going to start dreaming about moon Lambos and buying those big houses, luxury sedans, all, cyber trucks, all of those things. So a lot of crypto YouTube has to do with Fibonaccios, and we've kind of had a little we've kind of had a little retreat in Fibonacciism over the last year or two, couple of years. There's been a lot less Fibonaccios because it's a much less potent dopamine button when the price is just going sideways. But now that we're back in this season where big things start happening, or at least they have very recently, you're going to see a lot more Fibonaccios. So why am I raining on the Fibonacci parade? It's because you should not trust anyone who pretends to know things they couldn't possibly know. And unfortunately, these markets are full of chaos, especially these non transparent crypto markets. We don't know if some fund out there is, planning a Cardano ETF. Certainly, people are discussing those kinds of those kinds of possibilities. We don't know if that's going on. We don't know if zero entities out there are talking or thinking about Cardano ETFs. We don't know if a bunch of kids are just asking their grandparents to give them Cardano for Christmas, for the holidays, for whatever holiday you might be celebrating in December. We don't know if any of those things are going on. Certainly, Q4 has been a time when we've seen this kind of price action in the past in crypto. And Q1 has been one of those times when often we've seen the opposite. We've seen in Q4, we've often seen very exciting, optimistic things happening in the crypto markets. And then in Q1, that January, February, March, we start seeing the opposite, unpleasant things that make people in crypto very unhappy. And it's blamed on a lot of different things. Over the years, there have been so many narratives about why the price, is going up in a Q4 type period like now, and why it might go down in a Q1. Is it people filling red envelopes up with cash, so they're having to sell all their crypto and put cash into red envelopes to give presents in a few months here in certain parts of the world? Is it that kind of stuff? Who knows? Is it just a sell off after people buy a bunch of crypto in Q4 because they get their bonuses from work? Who knows? We'll never know. These are not transparent markets. It's a bunch of people out there buying crypto for whatever reason, and we can't see their motivation. We don't really know. There's not a whole lot of public filings available with crypto. Sure, we see the Coinbase filings and a few other entities that are related to crypto, but we don't have even the kind of transparency we do in the equity markets. And all the arguments I've made about chaos and not really knowing what's going on, they equally apply to the equity markets and every other type of market. And we have even less transparency, much, much less transparency in crypto. And while a crypto chart does tell you certain things, it's certainly a plot of price over time. It shows you what the price was on a certain day. And you can certainly say certain things about that chart of price and time. But what I've seen since I got into crypto in that, 2013, 2014 period. I think I actually got in and I started spending a lot of time thinking about crypto in 2012, but I think I actually bought crypto in 2013, 2014 period. Since then, I was just like everybody else. At first, I was like, oh my goodness, these technical analysis guys really seem to know what's going on. I don't even know what an Ichimoku cloud is. I don't even know what an Elliott wave is. Who's Elliott even? I don't even know. I was just like everybody else. I fell under the spell of Fibonaccios, and I was paying a lot of attention to dudes drawing Fibonacci triangles, telling me about Fibonacci sequences. I was paying a lot of attention to that. And pretty soon, I was even drawing my own triangles on charts, convincing myself that somehow it was giving me some information that I didn't have prior to drawing those Fibonaccios. After a couple cycles of that, I realized that at the end of the day, it wasn't really giving me any extra information. What was happening is that it was making me dream of riches, dream of all the treasures I would accumulate if my crypto went where I wanted it to go, and I would somehow sell it and have all this money to buy treasures, moon Lambos, houses, these kinds of things. So while I understand it is enjoyable, even knowing this, even knowing about the dopamine, this whole dopamine thing, this whole dopamine button that the Fibonaccios are intended to push, even knowing that, watching somebody who has some credibility in your mind draw those Fibonaccios and convince you that Bitcoin or Cardano or Ethereum or any crypto is going to go to some absurd level, it's hard to deny when that person on that screen pushes that dopamine button. It feels good because you dream of the riches. But what I found over the course of a couple cycles is that nobody really knows where the crypto market is going. There's too many variables. There's too much chaos. These guys drawing the Fibonaccios, they don't actually know. What they're doing is they're trying to accumulate views. They're trying to get views because they're YouTubers and they get paid if they get more views. They want you to subscribe, like, view. They're just pounding away, trying to blast you in the face with those Fibonaccios because they know it's going to push that dopamine button in your brain. Maybe they don't even know, but they probably have watched Fibonaccios themselves before they started becoming Fibonacci masters. They probably watched a lot of Fibonaccios themselves, and they remember that great feeling. They may not even know what the Fibonaccios are doing. They just know it feels great to watch those Fibonaccios. And they also know they can get out of it when they get them all wrong, which they do all the time. The Fibonacci masters get it wrong all the time. They turn around and they're like, okay, guys, yeah, I told you there was a chance it was going to go up, but there was also a chance it was going to go down and some possibilities of sideways. And it indeed did go one of those three directions, up, down, or sideways. They know they can get out of it. And pretty soon they figure out that it's this consistent thing they can do because every day the chart adds a day and they can draw some more Fibonaccios. What I'm telling you now is beware the Fibonaccios. I know it feels good to get blasted in the face by those Fibonaccios. It may feel fantastic to you to take that Fibonacci blasting in the face, but the truth is nobody really knows what the market's going to do. We all do know that the Bitcoin block reward gets cut in half, and we can roughly predict when that's going to happen. And we can look backwards and see what the price of BTC has done and what the price of other coins like Ethereum and Cardano have done, a certain number of months after that event where the Bitcoin block reward gets cut in half. That's certainly a thing that a lot of people in crypto have done in the past, will do this cycle, can do right now. That's certainly a thing. But all these guys drawing the Fibonaccios, pushing those dopamine buttons in your brain, beware, it might feel good, but beyond what I just described, nobody really knows what's going to happen in the market unless they're that guy doing the accumulation at the ETF, the guy who's already filed for the ETF or is going to file for an ETF. That guy, maybe he knows something that the rest of us don't know. But these guys drawing the Fibonaccios on TV, on your computer screen, on your phone screen, these YouTuber Fibonacci guys, they don't really know what the market's going to do. Nobody really does. Now that that's out of the way, on to some real Cardano news. Check this out, guys. This is DeFi Llama. DeFi Llama, despite having always refused to count Cardano protocol staking as value locked or any other metric, basically, DeFi Llama has some good news for us. Look at this. Oh man, guys, look where Cardano is. We looked in the past many times when Cardano made these moves. We were clearing on here, like in the low 20s. Prior to that, we were lower, but we were like 20s, 30s, something like that. Look where we are now. Number 9 in the TVL rankings, Cardano. I actually hate total value locked as a metric. I think it's a stupid metric. I think we should focus on other things. Total value liberated, total value decentralized, TVD. I'd rather we had TVD as a metric. No, we have TVL, and Cardano is finally in the top 10 in TVL. This is pretty big news for Cardano DeFi, and as much as I hate it, it actually does mean something to the kind of the denizens of the other blockchains, because this is a metric they very much care about, and we're finally in the top 10. Also at DeFi Llama, check this out over here, guys. What is this? Treasuries. They now have a treasuries button, a new treasuries button. And where is Cardano? Unsurprisingly to everybody in Cardano, there's a discovery to be made by the rest of crypto. That's that Cardano has a giant treasury. We do at 797.48 million right now. You notice the Ethereum Foundation, smaller treasury than Cardano. That's going to be very shocking to a lot of people. In fact, the only entities with larger treasuries than us are clear up here in the billions. We've got Optimism, Mantle, Uniswap, and Arbitrum, and everybody else is smaller than us. That counts Ethereum, Lido, Maker, Aave, Compound, all of these. And granted, you could argue that some of these are just, platforms as opposed to whole blockchains. But I mean, these are sort of all the entities that have treasuries, as far as I know. And Cardano is number 5. So all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, Cardano is looking very differently on DeFi Llama than it did just a short while ago. Unfortunately, with all this positive news about Cardano, we also have to do another unfortunate PSA. The first public service announcement was don't let dudes blast you in the face with their Fibonachos. The second one is make sure you look at the transactions you're signing. So if you have watched this channel, you probably are familiar with these types of schemes over in the robbery forest, which is what I jokingly call the account balance EVM world because there's so much theft and banditry going on over there. And because Cardano is going to be higher profile probably in this cycle, we also are going to have to look out for exactly these types of scams, which I guess recently were perpetrated right here in Cardano as well. So this was a scam where they convince you that something wonderful is happening, like you're receiving an ADA reward. And they're like, just sign this transaction, send us some tiny amount of ADA. I don't know if that's what happened here, but they're definitely going to make you sign some kind of transaction. It might be to send them one ADA or something like that. And they're like, we're going to send you all your ADA rewards. We just need you to sign this one transaction. So you just go ahead and sign it and you're like, okay, give me my ADA rewards. And then you notice that all of your assets are gone. Everything in your wallet was actually transferred. When you signed that transaction, you were actually signing a transaction to send them all of your stuff. All of your stuff got sent to the bandits. You now realize they're bandits. They weren't actually someone giving you a reward at all. So there's only one way to avoid this. You can't rely on finding out about these kind of scams before you're a victim because you might be, among the first victims. You can't rely on detecting that there's something wrong with the website. Look at this website. It looks perfectly fine. You can't rely on familiar names. Look at this website. Very familiar, well-known names in Cardano displayed here. You have to actually look at the transaction you're signing. In your wallet where you sign transactions, you need to figure out, if you don't know how, today's the day. Figure out right now, right after you watch this video, figure out how to look at transactions in your wallet. Different wallets, you might do that in different places, but you should be able to look at exactly what transaction you're signing, and you need to look at what assets are actually being transferred. It's kind of a pain. It's much easier just to sign transactions and, let them fly. That's much easier. But these kinds of scams are going to be happening more and more often. So you actually need to go in and look at every single transaction you're signing. Just make it a part of your signing process. Before you sign the transaction, make sure you've looked at exactly what assets are going across the blockchain. Because if you don't, you're definitely on the path to become a victim of one of these types of scams. Here's an interesting recent thread on something that I think we've talked about before on this channel and is probably going to be a bigger emerging theme in the future. And that's that there's a big gap. It's not even a big gap. It's a giant chasm between what people in crypto think are the rules when it comes to things like DeFi and what rules from the real world might actually be imposed upon them. A lot of people in crypto still haven't figured out that a judge cares about IRL laws, in real life laws, and not so much about our sentiment we've said since the beginning of crypto that code is law. Judges don't care that we think code is law. Judges will impose a lot of real world laws regardless of our notion that code must be law. So this thread puts it this way. Hard to explain this well on X, but yes, code must be law for DeFi to work. I think this is actually true. We've kind of gotten away with, hey, code is law, but that doesn't work very well when somebody loses, hundreds of millions of dollars in a hack. The hacker is just saying, code is law, bro. I was just making a withdrawal and the code allowed me to do it. So it's legal, bro. don't send the FBI. It's legal, bro. This is what the hackers are saying. That's not going to work in real life because these hacks are not getting smaller. The hacks are not getting smaller. The hacks are getting larger. That's because more and more money comes into crypto. And eventually, when some big Wall Street institutions are in crypto, hint, they're kind of here already, but when one of them loses a bunch of money, they're not going to be satisfied when somebody's like, code is law, bro. They're going to be like, no, I know 50 federal judges, bro. My whole legal team are ex federal prosecutors. Maybe that's a better way to put it than I know 50 federal judges, but the code is law thing is not going to hold up. It's not going to hold up. And I think this thread is right. A lot of DeFi isn't going to work the second those IRL laws get imposed on DeFi. Things are going to really change. And with the arrival of institutional Wall Street money, I think we're going to run into this kind of collision between the whole code is law notion and the rest of the world being like, no, law is law. Finally, here's a pretty amusing anecdote to remind us all why decentralization is so important. So, you probably remember all of the rustling and furor over ordinals. What are ordinals? Well, Bitcoin has had a few upgrades in the last decade, one of which was SegWit, that segregated witness, in 2017, and Taproot in 2021. Well, a very clever team figured out how these two upgrades to Bitcoin, although they were not intended to produce this result, could be used to inscribe certain data into the witness of transactions in Bitcoin. And voila, you could basically have NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain, which, if you follow this development, made a lot of people in Bitcoin very unhappy. They don't like their pure water Bitcoin crypto blockchain being used for things like NFTs. That's the world of altcoins, which you, of course, know they have a different name for. They like to call us by certain very pejorative names, but that's because they're a little threatened. They're a little threatened that the position of their precious Bitcoin could be upset. Their pure water crypto could be tainted by these, other types of technological progress. They want to freeze it in time. Bitcoin was enough. Don't want to go past that. We don't need any more technological progress. We don't need things like non-fungible tokens, only the pure water fungible Bitcoin. That's all we need. They don't want ordinals. They don't want NFTs. So someone, this is hilarious. Someone, someone filed Someone filed ordinals in the National Vulnerability Database kept by NIST. They filed an entry for ordinals as a vulnerability to the Bitcoin blockchain, and specifically to Bitcoin Core. It's not a new feature, it's a vulnerability. So I know what you're thinking. Hey, what does this have to do with decentralization? That didn't seem to have anything to do with decentralization. And you said this was an anecdote to remind us of the importance of decentralization. But it does, at least according to this report. And I don't know if this is true or not, but this is being reported. This poster says, man, oh man, ordinals are breaking lightning. Jack Dorsey's pool is censoring ordinals. This is very amusing. So, Bitcoin, one of the big selling points, one of the big parts of the narrative was that it was censorship resistant. But what we in Cardano seem to be very aware of, and is actually one of the reasons for our focus on decentralization, is that when you don't have decentralization, when you in fact have centralization, you can get censorship when it's only a small number of people who are responsible for doing all the mining or the validating or the proof of stake work, whatever we want to call it, whatever proof of blank it is. When you've only got a small number of people doing all the validation on the blockchain, you have a pretty high danger of censorship. And in this case, Jack Dorsey, who you probably know as a founder of Twitter, now known as X, Jack Dorsey is a big Bitcoin person, and he's censoring ordinals, which is kind of funny because Jack Dorsey is the kind of guy in the past who I've associated with all of that narrative about decentralization and all of those great things about Bitcoin, all the things that got us all into crypto in the first place. But he's being accused of censorship by this poster. Why would that be? This person says Jack Dorsey is a big Lightning Labs investor. And this poster is also saying that ordinals are breaking Lightning. He says, I couldn't figure out why Jack was picking a side in this, but now it makes total sense. And yeah, I mean, granted, if you had a lot of money in Lightning, which you probably know as the layer 2 state channel scaling solution of Bitcoin that was held up as the shining savior of Bitcoin. How are we going to solve, the scaling problem in Bitcoin? Lightning. It was going to be Lightning. Apparently, Jack Dorsey invested in that whole idea, and now ordinals are breaking Lightning. according to this poster. And also, according to this poster, Jack Dorsey is censoring ordinals, which in my book is not what the Bitcoin blockchain is supposed to be all about. But then again, when you actually have decentralization, it's much harder for censorship like this to happen. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I hope you're looking forward to a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.